About a year and a half and some months ago, I expected there to be a wave of attacks launched at Japanese content, their culture, and the way they go about it. Now, it's been happening way before that, but I predicted the rate at which we seen it would accelerate, and lo and behold, it did. So when I saw the United Nations was prioritizing their focus on anime and manga and how that's bad for society, instead of, the many foreign wars that's going on around the world, I thought, wow. Even that surprised me. Now, how I predicted this is that I saw these same type of minded people infiltrate Western entertainment from movies, TV shows, comic books, and especially video games. And these activists have succeeded to a huge degree, which I think their goal was to just destroy and burn everything down, leaving us without an option but to consume their politically motivated agendas. But what they didn't foresee is that there would be another option for fans to go, and that would be the Eastern market, predominantly Japan with anime and manga. So when I saw the United Nations were making accusations that anime, manga, and their video games promote gender stereotypes and sexual violence, I thought, oh, this is the same playbook just regurgitated. The same strategy that has led to the uglification of women characters. What is this shit? In video games, comics, slowly making them more manly looking and stripping them away of their sexual appeal, with this video of an activist being an example of this.
Metroid starred a bounty hunter named Samus Aran, who's covered head to toe in the now iconic cybernetic power suit. The two best endings make Metroid one of the first games to exploit the women as reward trope. The better a player does, the more clothing is removed. If the player completes the game in under 3 hours, Samus is shown without her armor and in a leotard. If the player finishes in under 1 hour, they're treated to Samus in a bikini. Rather, her body itself became the prize awarded to players for a job well done. Later games in the Metroid series continued the convention of rewarding players with endings featuring Samus in various states of undress. The convention of earning access to cutscenes or ending vignettes with eroticized female bodies can be found in many titles over the past 30 years. Instead of a kiss, sex with the rescued victim is the player's reward.
You saved us.
My pleasure, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, when I watch this, all I see is a good time. I want more. Bring these games back, untouched except for upgraded graphics. Now, for this activist, she probably shares the same sentiment as the United Nations.
This intense male entitlement manifests in aggression, abuse, and threats.
That this is worse than World War III or the foreign wars occurring at the moment. This might as well be an atomic bomb in the making as far as her view goes, because political correctness acts like a virus that sucks the logic and fun out of everything. The document recommends that Japan implement legal measures and monitoring programs seeking to restrict materials that, in the United Nations view, reinforce gender stereotypes and promote violence against women and girls. Now, this is a tactic I hope most have woken up to that worked a decade ago but won't work anymore. The attempt to sensationalize something that makes you feel guilty that only weak-minded people will react to, saying, oh, well, I'm against violence towards women. Let me put all logic aside and join them in condemning a medium I enjoyed my whole life just to save face. Where a common sense person knows what they mean by gender stereotypes promoting violence is that a woman is designed sexually appealing, feminine, and that attracts the male gaze. And that's harmful. How dare a woman be feminine and a man be masculine? Can't have that. Remember, that's worse than any foreign wars going on at the moment. The report emphasizes the need to combat sexist messages and stereotypical representations of women and girls in the media and on social media. The United Nations emphasizes that this content tends to perpetuate violence and discrimination against women, especially among ethnic minorities, such as the Ainu, Buraku, and Zaya Koreans. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Now, this is another common tactic amongst activists to find a group that's a minority, instill and hammer it into their head that they're victims and must galvanize them to assist in their efforts to destroy and rid the world of fun. Remember, these people are miserable and they need everyone to be miserable just like them. And the way that they push forward is to use minorities like shields to take all the cannon fire. Now, a problem with this in the West is that most Asians, not all but most, really ain't down with the activism.
Hey! Hey! This is library.
They're just trying to make a life for themselves, which is why when they don't cooperate, they get labeled as white adjacent. Now, another tactic I did not see coming was from the payment processors, refusing to provide service to Japanese artists, all under the guise of brand protection.
I'm sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit.
Saying they don't want to be associated with adult content, which I call bullshit, because who the hell thinks as Visa as a brand? You only see it as a means of transaction, nothing more than plastic. It's not like wearing a sports jersey where you can tie your face to the clothing. It's not like that at all. And this is something that's very difficult to fight because you can't create if you don't get paid. And it's not even due to lack of interest or demand from the fans, it's that your method of receiving payment can be shut off at a moment's notice. And their reasoning for doing so is such a contradiction because, as many other creators pointed out, they're perfectly fine with acting as a middleman to facilitate payments to OF, even with their recent scandal where a whistleblower said they failed to stop payments to OF for, let's say, CA content, and that's why I say this is bullshit. There's something distinct about targeting Japan specifically, so allow me to put my conspiracy thinking cap on to explore this further. I wouldn't be surprised if this was all coordinated and connected between the United Nations and Visa MasterCard, because Japan could always say, well, we're not changing our laws, tough luck, but when you get attacked politically and through the private sector, it strongholds you in a way where it's almost impossible to overcome this. And I think it's because Japan is just too popular with their content worldwide, and it's something that these activists weren't expecting because America used to be the main export of entertainment until activists destroyed it and got a hold of it. And they thought, hey, we finally own culture, until Japan came along.
Might have gotten away with it too. It wasn't for these blasted kids and their dogs.
And they found themselves a new enemy to tackle because they can't allow other options that exist outside of their control. Now, here's where I get even more conspiratorial. With all of this uncovering of USAID, revealing where all of the taxpayer money was going,
Doge and OMB also found that there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza. That is a preposterous waste of taxpayer money. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru, $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala, $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt, $20 million on a new Sesame Street show in Iraq, $4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. That's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government.
Funding all of this bullshit. Even Gamergate they contributed to, funneling money towards activist entities, pushing anti-gamer rhetoric through government-funded outlets.
It's really shocking where this money has been spent and the literal propaganda funded by our government. One of those outlets being Politico. People have wondered if our tax dollars were used to promote wokeness in video games, and the answer is yes. USAID paid Politico millions per year to write pieces like this one, which promotes diversity and describes Gamergate as a disinformation and harassment campaign. They're talking about Anita Sarkeesian and the other lady. That has led to the current AAA state that we're in now. And the woman I mentioned earlier, she had a company called Feminist Frequency, which received, oddly, $6 from taxpayer money when all of this got revealed, and then like $1 million from somewhere else, which is very suspicious. I don't know. Feminist Frequency also saw some of this government funds, $235,000 from 2019, 2020, 2021, all the way to 2023. Total gifts, grants, and contributions for Feminist Frequency, $1,446,638.
What the total taxpayer dollars, $6. And then other cast contributions are the 235, 222. So I'm wondering Are the other cash contributions also coming from the government?
Which is why there is this intent on always attacking Eastern developers when it comes to video games. Stellar Blade with the same rhetoric. IGN France editor-in-chief Erwin, whatever, implies Eve's design in Stellar Blade is killing women and accuses gamers of becoming too fragile due to being fed the patriarchy. Yes, no problem. Go tell that to women who are hit, killed, denigrated, or who commit, let's say, unalive themselves because they cannot live up to the fictional standards expected by men. Obviously, we understand that this does not shock people who think that women are objects who must obey and be beaten. Like, these are outrageous claims. Talk about reaching for the moon. So when I see that the United Nations talking this will promote violence against women, this is all way too coincidental and just happenstance. They're using the same rhetoric all the time, along with other Asian games being attacked like Black Myth Wukong and so on. So with all of this uncovering of corruption, I wouldn't be surprised if this was all the same efforts being levied at Japan, anime, and manga, or if something in the future were to be uncovered by the same people revealing this shit. Who knows at this point? I know Japan's prime minister just did a press conference with Trump, and I was hoping they would mention the visa scandal with stifling Japanese creators, but maybe they'll mention it later, but hope it was acknowledged nonetheless.
And also, you will redouble your efforts to bring peace to the world. And that is why God saved you in that experience.
Now, there is good news with Manga Z Library being a victim of the payment processor mafia having to shut down, but are attempting to make a comeback through crowdfunding, hoping to raise $3 million by April. I think they're at $1 million or a little bit over at this point, which I will be contributing to myself, and will leave a link for anybody interested as well in the description below. But it's just so crazy to sort through all of this, which why staying vigilant is so important, because these activist entities will not quit and act like parasites, always finding a new host to attach yourself to stay alive, and anime and manga, Japan overall, are just the current target for them. So keep your eyes open. Remember, a lot of this is my intuition and just conspiracy talk, but it's funny how people who put forth these conspiracies in due time seem to be just correct with a lot of this shit. So I don't know. But that's all I have for this video. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. If you love those Samurai Champloo lo-fi mellow boom bap vibes, then my music is definitely for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Free think. Peace.